All right, everyone, welcome back for another virtual Jiu-Jitsu fundamentals class. Mira and I were just talking about one of the front page news items today were the murder hornets that I guess are now in the Pacific Northwest here from Asia somewhere.
Japan.
From Japan, apparently.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're not going to learn anything quite as devastating as that today, but we hopefully have some good material for you.
Crazy.
So in class yesterday, we got started with looking at escaping some bad positions, and we're going to go ahead and continue that theme for today. Yesterday in class, it was back control is what we looked at getting out of, and today we're going to look at side control, which is one of the most common pinning positions, and it's one that I think, especially in the fundamental levels, if you're white belt, blue belt, or somebody who's just starting out, it tends to be one of the preferred pins and control positions for you, because at that stage it tends to offer control that's easier to maintain compared to as you get a little bit more experience, you might start to opt for going for the back or going for mount or something like that. But for the fundamentals, this side control is pretty important to have experience with from both the top position and then from bottom that we're going to look at today with escaping it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So side control in general, I'll have Mira go on the bottom first. She'll go down on her back here, and I'm going to tip this camera down just a little bit more. Just like that. Okay. So Mira's going to lay flat on her back. I'm going to scoot that way a little bit more. All right, that's pretty good. So side control position is typically going to involve the top player having some sort of a perpendicular type of angle, right? And there's 4 different primary arm positions that I can be in from the top, okay? And just for now, Mira will put her hands up by her neck or something like that. Both of her hands, yeah, there you go. So there's 4 main arm positions. I can have both my arms on this side of her body. I can have both of my arms across her body. I can do one each in this orientation, and I can do one each in this orientation. What you're typically going to find is that most good players are usually going to do the options that involve one arm on each side, okay? Rarely are we going to see something where a good player is going to go both arms all the way across, because I'm not able to use my arms very well to control them. The only time I would do this is if I'm actually attacking her arm here and I'm actively hunting a submission. Otherwise, you're not going to see that one a whole lot. The ones where both my hands are on this side, this can offer some good control, actually, depending on the scenario. But my attacks are going to be pretty limited, right? She has no real threat on her arm, and it's hard for me to make her feel threatened by any submissions. So what you're normally going to see is somebody wants to do one arm on each side of the body, a near side arm and a far side arm. And the most common way to control it is, and one of the best ways to control from the top, is with what we call a harness grip, okay? So the harness grip is going to involve me taking the hand by her head, coming underneath here, and then it's going to have this arm come underneath. So I'm going to get underneath her arm, and I'm going to hug in tight. I want to feel like I've got a good squeeze on her. And then with this, I'll be able to put, and I'm not going to go really hard, but I'm going to put my shoulder into her chin a little bit with what we call cross-face pressure, because that's going to add a good element of control to this and add some difficulty in her getting out, okay? All right, so Mira and I will trade top and bottom now. And so, again, with this being a fundamentals class, and the idea being that some of the folks following along at home might have no experience with jiu-jitsu at all. You might have totally none. I don't want to take anything for granted here. And so a question that we get in our fundamentals classes, our beginners class a lot, is, why don't you just turn and try to run away from them, And it's a great question, and there is a reason for that. And that's that, remember, the worst position we can be in jiu-jitsu is when my opponent gets my back, right? We looked at attacks from the back in our first week of classes, and then we looked at an escape from the back, which is really quite difficult to do. We looked at that yesterday. But what I don't want to do is go from bad to worse if I can help it, right? I'm already in a tough spot, but I don't want to make life worse for myself. So if Mira is here in that sort of position that we just did, this sort of cross-sides position, okay? Yeah, one of the reasons I don't want to try to turn and go this way is she can start going for my neck right away, and I can start getting into a lot of trouble here, okay? And so especially if the person on top of you is, someone that maybe has some training and is going to be a dangerous opponent if they get your back, we prefer to not give them that opportunity. So instead, what we want to try to do is turn and face them, okay? So I'm going to want to try to face the camera. So I'm going to go on this side, and Mira, I'm going to have you come over here, and we'll be at a slight angle. Okay. So if I find myself on the bottom, and I'm going to do this before Mira gets her grips on me here, but I don't want my arms extended out. They become very vulnerable and exposed for her to start doing bad things to if I extend them out. So I'm going to want to try to keep them in. Okay? So I'm going to stay right here. Mira's going to go ahead and get this harness on me. All right? Yeah, pretty much just like this. Okay? Now, let's talk about my hand position in more detail now that Mira is on top of me. Okay? Let's first talk about my right hand, the one that you can see here. I'm wiggling my fingers. Right now, with me kind of posting on her hip and my elbow between her knees, this is one of the better positions it can be in. What I don't want to do is let my arm come up here and let her knees scoot right up against my body. And now my arm is stuck. It's isolated, and it's hard for me to do anything with it. It can't help my cause. Okay? So if you back up a little bit. What I want is I like to kind of cap off her hip bone carefully because I don't want her to drop her hip onto my wrist and wrist lock me. But I like to keep that, and I like to keep my elbow in between her knees, because typically she's going to make her knees real wide to try to make her base low. Okay? And she's going to try to keep her knees right up against me is what she's going to try to do. Yep. Okay. Now, this hand. Now you can see it, but you shouldn't be able to if I'm in my ideal position. If it's up here, it really can't help me with almost anything, right? The problem that I'm in is that I do not have any space. I need space in order to escape. And if my arm is up here, or worse yet, both of my arms are up here, my arms are effectively holding her onto me, meaning I'm helping her cause. She wants no space. She wants to take away all the space between us, and I want the opposite of that. I want to be able to create space between us, okay? So again, this arm, I want in here. This arm, I want to go across the front of her neck, and I want to sort of, you can barely see my fingers on the camera here, but I've got my fingers right here, okay, trying to keep her off of me to whatever extent that I can, okay? And so now my hands are in positions to give me frames, and what I'm going to do is make it uncomfortable for her. So see how my feet, I don't leave them far away from my butt. I walk my toes into my butt, and I use my toes to drive this way. She's probably not going to fall over. She's probably going to want to stay on the top. She's probably going to want to stay on the top. There you go. But now I can scoot away from her, start getting my legs in between us, and now I've got my guard. Okay? Let's look at that one more time. Now, if they do fall over, sweet, I'm on top. Okay? But typically what's going to happen is the person is maybe if you surprise them, they might have to let go and catch themselves, but generally they're going to really not want to get rolled over, so they're going to do something to stay on top, okay? So I've got my hands into these good positions here. I walk my feet close to my butt. I do a nice big bridge onto the point of my shoulder. Then I do my shrimp, so I let my butt go away, and then I get in 1, or both, one or both of my legs in between us. Maybe I go all the way to a full guard, right? But I'm going to improve my position by getting to a guard. Okay? I'll show without Mira on camera so you guys can see. And if you are new to jiu-jitsu, the movement that I'm going to show in isolation and what I just did with Mira is typically something you're going to learn, or you're going to be shown this in probably your very first class. It's called a shrimp, okay? Just like the seafood that you would eat or whatever, a shrimp. And it's a movement that we use all the time when we're escaping bad positions, or when we're on the bottom and we need to improve our position, especially the position of our hips. Okay? So it's a great drill to practice by yourself, and we do it in warm-ups almost every day, and it's something you'll see a lot if you get started with jiu-jitsu. So I'm in my defensive position. My hands are in, my feet are close to my butt, my toes are engaged to the mat. I'm gonna get onto one shoulder, right? So I'm gonna get onto one shoulder like this. My hips are off of the ground, and my shoulder stays in place, my feet stay in place, and I move my butt like that, okay? So one more time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna visualize my opponent's neck is on this forearm right here. I'm gonna visualize that their neck is on my left forearm. And what I'm gonna do is bridge onto my right shoulder, and I'm gonna visualize driving my forearm into their neck. My forearm stays out here to continue to hold their neck away from me, and then I move my butt into the shrimp. So now my butt is far away from them, and I can start recovering my legs to get my guard. Okay? So I'll show one more time in isolation. Again, if you want some things to practice for solo drills at home, the shrimp is probably the best thing that you can practice for your jiu-jitsu. We'll show it one more time, and then Mira will come get a shot with me on the top. Okay? So I'm in my defensive position. I visualize that my forearm is underneath of her neck, okay, kind of right across her windpipe. So I'm gonna bridge onto my shoulder, my hips come high, and I visualize that forearm holding her neck away from me. I continue to hold her neck away from me with the forearm. Wow, my butt moves out, and then I start to recover my guard from there. Okay? If Mira's ready, we'll bring her back on camera. Mira will go right here. You're in down position. Okay, so I'm gonna get my harness grip. Mira's gonna do a big bridge onto her right shoulder, and then the shrimp, and then once she's done the shrimp, she can start to get her guard back. Like that. Okay, so she's gonna try to put her elbow kind of between my legs and put her hand sort of on my hip bone to manage the distance. Her other hand cups my shoulder, and she's already starting to push in my neck a little bit. She does a big bridge onto her right shoulder. Big bridge, about high in the air. Yep, only on your right shoulder. Yes, there you go. And now she's gonna move her butt away from me, and now she has space to get her legs in between us, and she's gonna be able to get her guard from there. Okay. So this is a great example because there's a big size difference between Mira and me. And so she has to bridge really hard in order to get me off of her. If she just tries to only leave her butt on the ground and slide around, it's not going to work with this much of a size difference. So on the next one, we'll have Mira try to really get her butt as high into the air as she possibly can, because she's got to, I weigh a lot more than her, and so she's got to create that distance to move me off of her. She's going to be down. And let's scoot this way just a little. Yeah, that'll be better. Okay, so, yeah, this is good. So she gets a big bridge. Yes, this is better. Now she shrinks and moves her butt away, and then she gets her leg in between us, Much better. And then she gets the guard back. Okay. That looks really good. So just so you guys can see another angle, we'll spin a 180 on this and show this, the same thing. And if you guys have any questions on this, put them in the chat right now and we'll try to answer them before we move on to any more material. So Mira and I will both spin a 180. Yep, right about here. Maybe next time we'll get the hair done before.
I have to fix my hair.
Okay, so I'm gonna get the harness. She's gonna get her frames. She's gonna do a big bridge onto her right shoulder. Yes, shrimp. Good. Good hip movement. And then she gets her guard back. Okay. And if you guys remember, we talked in the closed guard part of our virtual class series a couple weeks ago about how if your opponent's hands are on the ground, they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to attack. And oftentimes when Mira does this recovery from side control into the guard, a lot of times my hands are on the ground. So if she wanted to try to like quickly sit up and get a Kimura or something like that, that option would be available to her. Okay, so just something to think about as we do it. All right. So again, if you guys have any questions on that, pop them in the chat, and we'll try to get those answered for you. And what we just showed is sort of like the worst case scenario, right? Or one of the worst case scenarios, one of the most difficult ones, because the harness that the top player had is really difficult to deal with from the bottom once it's locked in really strong. And so it's definitely worth throwing a reminder out there that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if I find myself on the bottom, remember that not all bottom positions are created equal. And so if I can do something where, in spite of being on the bottom, I stop their crossface from ever getting set, it'll be so much easier for me to be able to recover to a good position compared to if I let them sink in a crossface full pressure. Okay. So what does that mean? So I'm going to go on my back. I'm going to have Mira scoot a little bit over toward the camera here. Yeah, right there. You're going to be on top. So in the first thing that we did, her arm had no barrier against my neck and my jaw. This arm was completely isolated out here, okay? So what would be better is, even if I'm on the bottom, if I can take this hand and I block her biceps before she gets my head. So now she can try with all of her power to get my head. Go ahead and try. You can get down low and everything. And it's so hard for her. And now it's so much easier for me to turn and face her and get my guard back. Because she never had that control to begin with. Mira has no idea what just happened right now. That's jujitsu. Okay? So, again, an ounce prevention worth a pound of cure. Let's say as an example, right? So Mira might be in my half guard, okay? And let's just say in the half guard, I'm very keenly aware of not getting crossface. She's trying to crossface me. She's getting down low. She's trying to get me, and I'm not letting it happen. But she passes my guard somehow. She just takes some magic pill and passes my guard. I can get my guard back much better because I never let her have that crossface. And then I can sweep her. Was that a tap out? Okay. So really try to
next level jiu-jitsu.
Really try to remember that we want to stop that crossface from coming in. Okay. And this would especially be true if roles were reversed, right? So Mira and I will go ahead and I'll let her get some payback now, and we're going to trade roles. So she's now going to do the same move as before, except she's going to do it with blocking my bicep before I can set the crossface in. And especially as a smaller player, where she's outweighed by me, she's going to find that this is so much easier for her to do compared to when I have the grip all the way in there. Okay. So when you guys are practicing, or if you're doing any sparring, anything like that, let's have you do head to the camera for this one. This is definitely something to think about. And I'm a big believer in that there's a lot of value to positional sparring, where you guys take turns and I do, 2 minutes on top and then you get 2 minutes on top of just side control. But you can try both positions. You can try side control starting with the harness and the crossface. And then you could also try side control with what we're gonna do now, where she's blocking my bicep and I don't get it. And I don't get the crossface. And again, the whole idea is, in order for her to do this escape, she wants to turn and face me, right? That's the motion number one of the escape, is she's trying to turn and face me. And the crossface would make it quite difficult for her to turn and face me. So I'm shutting her down before she can even get started. And now she's trying to be that chess move that's one step ahead. She's like, okay, well, I know I want to turn and face the top person, so I'm going to not let them get this crossface, because then I can turn and look at them and my body can face that way more easily. Okay. So Mira's going to especially use her near side hand to block somewhere above my elbow. Usually right in the crook of the elbow is a great place for her to block. Her other hand goes on my neck like before. And now if I try to turn her face away from me, I can't, because I don't have control of her head. So now she's still going to use her toes and her hips like before to do a big bridge and turn and shrimp, and then she's going to get her guard back. Right? Something along those lines. Okay, we'll do one more time. Tuck the jacket in a little bit. Okay, we'll do one more time. So again, the movement is the same. There's not really a change in the movement that Mira is doing. It's just different in how easy or how difficult is it. If she can block the crossface by getting this sort of bicep block before I set it in, her life is so much easier from the bottom position here. So we'll have Mira scoot to me a couple inches, and we'll show one more time. And again, if you guys have any questions, don't forget to pop those in the comment section here. So I'm going for the crossface. She blocks it. She does a big bridge onto her shoulder, shrimps away, and then she gets her guard back. Maybe she goes for Kimura or a choke or something like that. Yeah, she gets my arm and she does something mean to it and makes me tap out. We'll have to review Mira's submissions maybe in a future class. So, all right, guys. That, I think, is a good stopping point for today. Remember, the worst case scenario is they get that harness. That's going to make it quite a bit more difficult. It's still not a place I want to be on side control bottom, but if I am on side control bottom, I would much rather block that crossface from coming in, because it really is going to make life pretty difficult for me. So try to stay a step ahead and get that blocked. If you have any questions, pop them in right now. Mira, do you have any questions? What was the hardest part of that for you?
I guess getting enough space to get through.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know I mentioned that once, but let's reiterate that, since Mira just brought it up. The objectives of the top player and the bottom player are opposites here, right? If I want to control Mira and I'm on top, I want to take away all the space. I don't want to give her any space to move. Her objective is the opposite. If she's on the bottom and she's trying to escape, she wants to create as much space as possible. The more space, the easier to escape, right? If we look at a clearly non-realistic situation to just make the point very obviously, right? If Mira lies down on her back right here, and I'm over here, not even touching her, she can escape super easy because she's got all the space she wants. Stand up. Oh my goodness, look at that escape. It's magic, right? Okay, and then she comes back down. Now every little bit closer that I get to her, it's a little bit harder, right? So if I'm like this close, I'm not touching her yet, but we say 3, 2, 1, go, and she tries to get up. 3, 2, 1, go. I might be able to start to get her before she goes. Okay, and obviously if I start all the way in a pin, now it's going to be really pretty hard for her to get out. So the less you can let them attach to you, if you're the bottom player, the better. You want to keep their attachments off of you as much as possible. So All right. I think that's good for today. Thank you all for tuning in. And we are looking at rearranging our class schedule a little bit. We'll keep everybody posted on that. But we might shift Sundays to a different day of the week. So stay tuned for some more info on that. We'll hopefully announce that in the next couple of days.
Maybe let us know if there's a day of the week that's better.
Yeah. But yeah, we're just trying to mix that up a little bit. But appreciate you guys rolling with the punches with us on this. And I think that's it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.